At some point, the industry of college football hits a tipping point. Crossroads, tipping point, I don't care, whatever terms you want to use. I think we're there. And if not, we're really, really close. It doesn't end well. And I've seen this before, and I've seen this up close, and I've seen it end really badly. It's not going to end well for coaches. It's not going to end well for players. It's not going to end well for money guys. It's not going to end well for entire leagues. Will you care? Not for a while. You won't care. But eventually the curtain is going to be pulled back a little bit. You're going to see the finger pointing. I think you're going to see the lawsuits. I think you're going to see this thing come apart. And I think eventually you will care. We now have all the makings of an industrial implosion. You have mercenary players surrounded by hangers-on, and all of them are chasing money. Any amount, every time there's an increase, they're going to chase it. They're going to chase it. They're going to chase it. Coaches are going to, if they're not already, and I'm sure they already are, desperate to match money of the big money sugar daddies. The money just keeps getting ramped up. And so it's an industry, and I've seen it before, and I'll explain to you how this plays out. They get desperate. There's only a finite amount of money, and they get desperate. You have unregulated agents who can be anybody and everybody, and they're desperate for clients. You have rich men that are, I say men, I may be women too, but it's not that big of a group. You have rich men that are now grabbing control of entire programs because they are the money source. They are now the most important part of college football now. That rich guy, or whatever your money source is the most important person. I've told you many times, I will give you plenty of examples. Once they control your program, once they get a hold of it, they do not let go. It doesn't go well. It doesn't end well. Now, like you can see, I've been telling people for a couple of years, now you can start to see the finger pointing. This is how the whole thing comes apart, is the programs, because they're desperate, because they're angry, because they feel like they've been jobbed, they start pointing fingers. They don't just point fingers now, they're suing each other. It will be the beginning of a long, drawn-out, ridiculous fight until they decide to fix it. And I don't think they do. So what set it off, and I'll predict will create a bigger fight, and I don't know that you're going to blame these programs. And yeah, I think you're eventually going to care. But what set this off are a couple of things. A giant guaranteed contract reset the market. That sent the whole thing into a domino effect. And that is big name players in the college sports saying, wait a minute, how much? Yeah, I want that. And so they're chasing it. And they blow off, the few that have contracts, they're now blowing off the contracts to chase bigger money. I've said, oh my gosh, probably feels like once a year, maybe once every 6 months. The greed of everyone will eat this industry alive. Again, I've seen it happen up close, and don't tell me because that's the way things used to be. Things now are just like they used to be. All the makings are there. And now you have the fight. People can chase money. People can get desperate. People can turn to shady. This is what happens in that industry. They turn to shady people to get the money. But once they start fighting with each other, it just implodes, man. A couple things you have to understand about where the sport is. And again, most fans don't care. As long as your show is good and your team is doing okay, you're not going to care until you do. And so I think that part of, why are they suing each other now is kind of where you're going to end up. But you have to understand a couple things. One, the mercenary mentality of college football is, please understand this, and I don't think it's said very often. Okay, the mercenary status, whether you think it's cool that young guys are now making a bunch of money or not, which is fine, it is not at all what's happening now. And what fight has just started is not at all about the court case that started this. This is not at all what's happening. The fight that just now is transpiring as we speak is not at all about the court cases. I know of many of them. The court case that ultimately set the payment system in place was a very righteous, sensible court case, a fight that many players, dating back to my day, we had fought over several times. And that is, listen, there needs to be a payment scale for athletes to profit off their own marketing rights. The argument about selling the jerseys of a player had been going on for quite some time. It ultimately settled in a long, drawn-out court case of a player who sued a video game company because they were using his likeness. The court said, you're right. You have a right to protect your likeness and to profit off of endorsement deals. It is very specific language. It was a very specific case. It never, ever was about what's going on now. Everything happening now, the fighting that is about to happen, the court case that's about to start, I've been telling you, it completely was hijacked. I know of the court case. I knew guys that were involved in these court cases. They're suing for the right to make money. So if you sell my shirt, you put my face on a billboard, you want me to do a sandwich ad. Players had been fighting for decades over that right. The court case said that's how you have every right to get paid for that. So what's happened over the past few days, in particular what is ramped up today, is not about name, image, and likeness. That term is so overused and most likely used in the wrong way. A salary cap out of the court case. Okay? It had already been established. That court case, ultimately, the O'Bannon case, ultimately set a cap. It's a thing. The players won in court on how they get paid. What's happened now is not about that case. You're going to say, well, and plenty of people in my business say this too. Well, this is cool, though. There's parity now. Indiana kicked Alabama's ass. So what's the problem with this? It's cool. It's different. 19-year-olds are now making a lot of money. They're getting rich, shopping themselves to the highest bidder. So what could be the problem with this? And that's not necessarily a good argument because it's not parity. Okay? It's really not, it's not parity at all. All that's happened is that some different names are now coming out of nowhere and are successful. And people are then saying, well, it's that must be parity. Well, all it is it's just different names. It's not parity at all. It's a few new names, the Indianas, the Texas Techs, but it's not parity. Indiana boat raced Alabama because Indiana is able to buy players Alabama can't, period. It's not parity. They can buy players that 99% of the other programs can't buy, including the very famous program. They just kicked their ass, but it's not parity. It's not true. There's nothing set up about this sport. This is why they're now suing each other. So if you say, well, who cares? Okay. Well, I can tell you this. Washington cares. Georgia cares because they're suing. And I'll bet more are going to do the same. The finger pointing is now starting, and you are going to turn over a rock. None of you want to see it. None of you really care about the faces behind a helmet. You don't care about the shady characters, but I bet you're going to learn a lot about them in the very near future. The thing, they'll eat themselves alive starting about right now. Getting rich is fine in the sport until people start getting screwed. It's kind of the way it always worked. I saw it unfold. You're making money. Nobody really cares where it came from. Nobody cares about the characters involved. Nobody really cares about much at all as long as you just keep playing and putting on the show. But when people start getting screwed over in the process, then they fight back. And that's where you are now. It was going to happen sooner or later. The sport lives in a completely unregulated market with no rules or guardrails. So the reality of this is, Indiana rolled Alabama, for example, because they have a rich owner. Okay? It's an ugly setup. They didn't necessarily do anything wrong. But now what's happening is wrong because the money started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. This is what happened when guys were doing this in the 80s and went all the way up to the governor's mansion. Then it got organized crime members involved. Because the money gets bigger, you get desperate. And once desperation kicks in, you turn to some bad places. So the court case, here's what's happened now. And Washington quarterback Damon Williams Jr.'s announcement that he plans to enter the transfer portal sent shockwaves through college sports. This is ESPN reporting this now. 4 days earlier, he had signed a contract to return to Washington. I've complained and asked the question off and on this show, why don't these programs get contracts? Well, their answer back is, we did, and they still don't care. He was set to be paid in the mid $4 million range that would put him near the top of the market for college football. That, of course, is until the market got reset. Everyone is chasing the money so fast. So the market got reset. So what does he do? Screw that. 4's not enough. I want 6. And the next guy's going to say, I want 7. I want 8. And then they're not going to have it. They're going to turn to some shady characters. So here's the tipping point. What happens next, according to ESPN, with Williams will speak volumes about the future of college football and the enforceability of contracts. A high-ranking college official tells ESPN, this is a very bright line. Are we going to respect each other's contracts? It's a simple thing. If we can't protect this, nothing else matters. If Williams follows through on his desire to leave Washington, LSU is the presumptive favorite for his services. Hey, here's a recommendation backed up by my own experience, a great experience. And that is, I've been a client of DJC Law, and I can tell you this. You're going to get 3 things with DJC Law. You'll notice it right away. The difference is you will get peace of mind. They will take care of every single detail perfectly, and you will get the result you deserve. If you're injured by the negligence of someone else, fighting with an insurance company for any reason, trust me when I tell you, you will need DJC Law. Dan Christensen and his team of attorneys have a remarkable track record. I've known Dan a long time. He's a military vet. He's board certified in civil trial law, and I've been a client. So you can trust them. You will get the result you deserve. Check out teamjustice.com, and you'll see thousands of 5-star reviews. The bottom line is, if you're in an accident, you need DJC Law. Contact them right away. 512-888-9999. But others are expected to be involved as well. The case will be a litmus test for the rules of a new era and will likely end up in court. This will be turn over the rock, and you're going to start hearing about a bunch of these. You're going to start hearing terms like tampering, and you can't blame them. But this is what happens when you chase the money. The bigger it gets, okay, they had a salary cap. They had it, and they blew it out of the water and didn't care. And they didn't care until they started to care. And they said, wait a minute, we paid you $4 million and we got you under contract. Your name is right here and you screwed us over. Yeah. The situation, according to ESPN, can be boiled down to a simple point that has been running an issue and an embarrassment for college sports. Can contracts be enforced? A high-ranking college official says this wouldn't happen in professional sports. Gosh, where have you heard that before? Things like this seem to show that people think they can do anything now. One general manager at a top program tells ESPN, quote, "It's extremely embarrassing that we have a system like this. There's no stability at all. How are people sitting around watching everything crumble? What are the leaders doing? What are the commissioners doing? How do we not get everyone in a room until there's a solution? Everything is starting to come apart." Hey, where did you hear that before? I'm telling you, you're only going to get the tip of the iceberg. Just wait until you find out the characters involved. One veteran head coach added, quote, "I don't even know who to turn to complain." Washington sources say the university is prepared to pursue all legal avenues to enforce Williams' contract. Now, some of you that have been in contracts before, we're going to start hearing terms like tortious interference, and anybody that was tampering with him, they are going to come at each other. And once you come at a program, because this is exactly how it comes unraveled, somebody says, don't you point that finger at me. Well, they did it, and then they did it, and they did it. And then it's on. Then it's on. They just start fighting. And they start ratting each other out. Williams' case, according to ESPN, speaks to a larger issue in which contracts around the sport, binding schools to leagues, coaches to schools, and players to programs, are largely being ignored with no enforcement at all. Okay, so there's Georgia's doing the same thing. I suspect that waiting on how this plays out, there are going to be others. Would they come after LSU? Yeah, they probably would. Yeah. Georgia's now in the process of suing a guy as well. Yeah, I mean, it's going to take every angle. So here's the thing. The reality is, take the Indiana-Alabama thing. And so this is what I'm saying about once you get these characters involved, once the amount of money that everyone's chasing gets ramped up, it's not a problem getting rich. The problem is getting rich when there's only one source, and that is a sugar daddy. When rich guys take control of your program. This is what I tried to tell you. I've seen it happen up close. They do not let go. They do not accept no for an answer. It's what I know you're going to think, well, those were old times. What brought SMU down, they couldn't stop. They couldn't stop. There are two issues that end up getting really ugly. And the combustible mix here, which I think is what schools, coaches, and yes, I think most people involved are pretty decent, but they're so desperate to win and the money gets ramped up, they get desperate to where they're going to get the money. That's when the door is thrown up into really shady characters. But you've got this bad mix of mercenary players doing what any 19-year-old would do, and that is chase with a bunch of hangers-on, chasing the biggest bucks you can, as fast as you can. You'll go anywhere. You'll run over your grandmother for another $1 million. And then you got the agent world, which is completely unregulated. Now, who knows if they're really aged? Some are, I'm sure. There's probably decent people, but they're desperate. I saw it happen before. When agents are desperate, there's only a finite number of players that can make them money. They'll do anything to get them. Then you've got coaches are desperate, turning to the rich guys. Once the rich guys own the coach and the players, they're the ones calling all the shots. They matter more. And then, I know it sounds crazy, and I know it's going to sound overly dramatic, but you've got this thing hanging out there that is like the ugly, and I'm a proponent of legalized gambling, but this is a different world now where you need a few extra bucks, you need some extra money. Where are you going to turn? What can happen then? So it's a really bad mix of all these players, and I don't mean just the football players, I mean these characters that are all just desperate. They're desperate to justify their existence. And now you got these players bouncing from place to place, even when they have contracts. You knew somebody sooner or later was going to say, I got to sue you over this, man. I'm going to sue you. And so this is going to be the first of many. Here's the thing, and this is why I'm sure behind the scenes they've watched this unfold. I'm sure in a very honest moment. And sooner or later, people are going to be honest. Usually what happens is the scandal gets so big and so ugly, people come forward and start saying, I saw it happen. I knew this was going to happen. I wish this wasn't going to happen. I mean, you're going to have people falling on the sword. We're going to learn a lot more about it. But it's not, the NFL knew not to do this, right? Think about the setup of college football and how it was on this ridiculous course to end up like this. Okay, and that is once you get a rich guy, once he starts spending, they love the rush. They love the ego. They love owning that team. And usually the first, you're not going to laugh at me when I say this, usually the first person that gets miffed and bent out of shape and saying, come on, man, is the coach. Because all of a sudden that coach realizes, I'm not in control at all. I don't even matter anymore. But the NFL, think about the NFL, that people are getting rich. They have a giant media deal. They operate solely on a revenue share. solely. I've been through strikes. I know exactly how the economics of it work. They operate on a revenue share. More money in, more money for all of us. But you know what they did? They figured out that the difference between the Jets, who are one of the most valuable franchises on the planet with an heir to the Johnson & Johnson fortune, the Jets, just because they have a bunch of money, they're terrible. They're never in the playoffs. But the Packers, the Jags, so the NFL knew we didn't want to make it about the money because we're all going to make our money. We're going to set it up where we make our money. We're going to set this up so that you win by being smart. You win by running a good team. You win by having good coaches and good players and balancing the budget. You win by the stuff that matters instead of the way college football has allowed itself to end up, and that is you win by the sole differentiator in college football now. Feel free to disagree, but I think I'm right. The differentiator in college football is whether you have a rich guy supporting you. That's it. That's the differentiator. In the NFL, the differentiator is your front office, your coach, your quarterback, how you manage that money because you all have the same. The NFL's built on smart teams win, smart organizations win. College football now is completely reliant on, do you have a rich guy funding you? Or two, or three, whatever it is. That's the differentiator. So when nobody is following the rules on tampering and the agreed upon cap, which they aren't and they haven't, and it was going to bite them in the ass sooner or later, programs get desperate to pay the mercenary players what they want. And now every time that bar is ramped up, you're going to again laugh at me. You used to see the same thing with guys. So-and-so offered me this amount. That's the going rate. What if they don't have it? They get desperate. You have to win. The rich men want you to win. The coach is paid to win. You got to go find the money because the money decides if you win. If I can hand that guy a sack of cash, not a salary cap, not a endorsement deal, not an advertising deal, I am running this program to go find cash for that player, which keeps getting ramped up all the time. Washington thought they had the top of the market at $4 million for a quarterback, and he said, screw that. So they got to go find $2 million more, then $3 million. You see what you're chasing. Then you turn to bad characters. So when you owe enough shady people money, it doesn't end well. When you become solely dependent on who has a sugar daddy and who doesn't, it doesn't end well. It just doesn't. You wouldn't want to work for these guys. So if it's not happening already, the desperation to buy players or keep players is creating or will create shady relationships, and that implodes. It just implodes. This entire setup is incredibly familiar. And now the finger pointing for good reason. You finally get to the point where you're saying, I don't have another $2 million for you, buddy, and your dad and your uncle and your best friend. I don't have it. And you know what? I'm not even going to go get it because we had you sign this deal for $4 million. You said screw off. So they'll sue them. And somehow, some way, someday they might try to get back in a room. I don't think so because the industry's been through this before. And they're so greedy. And again, those rich guys who want to own these teams, these college teams, they don't want to, once I've bought enough good players, I don't want to play by your rules. I think it's starting to unravel. I think it's starting to unravel for good reason. I don't know that the curtain is going to be pulled back all the way yet. Eventually it does. And maybe I'll look at it differently. A lot of people, I mean, I played at a time. I saw guys get involved in really awful things, getting pulled in different directions. It ultimately ended up with really bad characters. Saw programs just taken over by rich guys who just wouldn't let go and went nuts. And so maybe I think I see it differently than you, but they're on their way there. They're on their way there. What I don't get is I don't get why more coaches, maybe this Washington and Georgia lawsuits will start it. You know, there are a lot of coaches from Steve Sarkisian to Kirby Smart. They're in powerful positions. They're pretty well set, I think. I'm surprised they're not more outspoken. And maybe these lawsuits now will start that. But bottom line is Washington has said, you signed to play for us. You signed to play for us for all we could give you. And then you left 2 days later. And whoever called you, we're going to sue them too.